$45. That's how much I'm getting for this blood donation. I'm sitting in the donation chair watching my blood flow through a tube into a plastic bag. Red Cross Center, Portland, 2:15 p.m. I have exactly $8 left in my checking account. The nurse keeps glancing at me like she knows I'm not here by choice, but out of desperation. 45. And that's also what my ex-wife thought I was worth when she walked out. 18 months ago, I was Daniel Foster, aerospace engineer. I had a house worth $485K, a marriage I thought was solid, and kids who called me dad instead of screening my calls. Then Boeing laid me off, and suddenly I wasn't a provider anymore. I was just a problem to be solved. Jennifer filed divorce papers 4 months after I lost my job. I didn't marry a failure, she said. She got the house, the investments, everything we'd built together. She left me with a Honda and enough pride not to beg. So here I am, selling the only thing I have left that's worth anything. But here's what nobody knew. Not Jennifer, not my kids, not even me. Sometimes, what looks like rock bottom is actually a launching pad. And sometimes, the people who abandon you when you are worthless come crawling back when you are priceless. This story has more twists than a medical thriller. And if you're listening in your car right now, wondering if people really change, or if they just change their strategy, you're going to want to hear how this plays out. Let me know where you're tuning in from, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. The bag fills up. $45 richer. I stand up dizzy and head for the parking lot. I had no idea I was about to save a billionaire's life. See, 18 months ago, I was Daniel Foster, aerospace engineer at Boeing. Had a house in Lake Oswego worth $485K, a 401K that was actually growing, and a wife who called me honey instead of Dan. Then the layoffs hit. Budget cuts. Last hired, first fired. That's how it works when you're 52 and the new guys are 28, with student loans and energy drinks for breakfast. Unemployment ran out after 6 months. The house went into foreclosure after 12. Jennifer, that's my wife, or was my wife, she started sleeping in the guest bedroom after 14 months. By month 16, she wasn't sleeping there either. I didn't marry a failure, she told me the day she packed her bags. Our daughter Emma stood behind her, 26 years old, arms crossed, not making eye contact. I married a provider. The divorce papers came 2 weeks later. Somehow, Jennifer's lawyer managed to argue that my unemployment was voluntary career neglect. I got to keep my car, a 2018 Honda with 127,000 miles, and exactly enough money to rent a studio apartment in southeast Portland. Jennifer got everything else, including our son Tyler, who was finishing up law school at Lewis and Clark. Dad's going through a rough patch, I heard Emma tell someone on the phone. We just need some space. Space. 18 months of space. 18 months of protein bars for dinner and job interviews that ended with "we'll be in touch." 18 months of watching my phone not ring except for bill collectors who'd given up being polite. So here I am selling my blood for grocery money, thinking about how I used to design aircraft systems that kept people safe at 35,000 feet. Now I'm hoping my hemoglobin levels are high enough to qualify for $45. The Honda's engine turns over on the third try. I've got enough gas to get home, enough blood money to buy ramen for the week, and enough pride left to not call Jennifer and ask for help. But the phone's about to ring at 11:23 tonight, and everything I thought I knew about my worth was about to change. Let me back up. Jennifer and I met in college, University of Oregon, 1994. She was pre-law, I was engineering. She had this way of making you feel like the smartest guy in the room, even when you weren't. Especially when you weren't. You're going to build airplanes, she'd say, tracing her finger along my textbook diagrams. And I'm going to sue people who make bad airplanes. We're perfect for each other. For 25 years, that actually worked. I'd come home with stories about thrust-to-weight ratios and hydraulic redundancy systems. She'd come home with stories about depositions and settlement negotiations. We bought the house in Lake Oswego in 2003, back when I was pulling in $89K a year and she was making partner track at Morrison & Associates. Emma came along in 1998. Tyler in 2001. Soccer games and piano recitals and family vacations to Cannon Beach. I taught them both how to ride bikes in the driveway of that house, how to change a tire, how to balance a checkbook. Jennifer taught them how to argue their points, how to read contracts, how to never accept the first offer. Your father's the steady one, she'd tell them. I'm the shark. The steady one. I liked that. Steady income, steady marriage, steady progress toward a retirement that looked comfortable. Jennifer's law practice grew. My position at Boeing seemed secure. We had investment accounts and college funds, and a 5-year plan to pay off the house early. Then 2023 happened. Defense spending got slashed. Boeing's commercial division restructured. 3 rounds of layoffs in 8 months, and my name came up in round 2. 26 years of service, and it came down to a meeting that lasted 12 minutes. It's not personal, Dan, my supervisor said. It's just numbers. Numbers. Everything became numbers after that. The dwindling bank account numbers, the mortgage payment numbers, the unemployment benefit numbers that never quite covered the monthly expenses. Jennifer tried to be supportive at first. You'll find something, she'd say. Someone with your experience. But after 6 months of someone with your experience turning into, we've decided to go with a different candidate, her support started feeling more like obligation. After 12 months, it felt like pity. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, February 14th, if you want the full irony, Valentine's Day. I'd been working on an application for a position at Intel, system reliability engineer, 40% pay cut from what I was making at Boeing, but it was something. Jennifer came into my makeshift home office, which was really just the dining room table covered with printed job postings and cover letters. How long is this going to take? She asked. The application? Maybe another hour? No, this. She gestured around the room. The unemployment thing, the settling. Settling. Like finding a job was the same as lowering your standards. Jen, I'm trying. The market's tough right now. Your friend Rick found something. Rick Patterson, who got laid off the same day I did. Rick, who took a job selling insurance and hated every minute of it, but brought home a paycheck. Rick's selling insurance. Rick's providing for his family. That word again. Providing. Like everything I'd done for 25 years, all the late nights and weekend calls and business trips that kept Boeing's systems running safely, like none of that counted once the paycheck stopped. The next morning, I found her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. Jennifer's law firm colleagues made sure she got the house, the better car, and most of the investment accounts. My lawyer, a public defender who handled divorces on the side, kept telling me to be reasonable. She's established the family lifestyle, he explained. The court wants to maintain that stability. Stability. For her. My stability apparently didn't factor into the equation. The day I moved out, Tyler helped me load boxes into a U-Haul. He was 23 then, finishing his last year of law school, already talking about joining a firm in Seattle. Mom says you can visit whenever you want, he said, not quite making eye contact. This is your home too, Tyler. You don't need permission to see your father. I know, this is hard for everybody. Emma didn't help with the boxes. She stayed in her old bedroom, the one she'd moved back into after college while she figured out her career path. When I knocked on her door to say goodbye, she opened it just enough to talk through the gap. Are you going to be okay, Dad? I'm going to be fine. Mom says you're having some kind of breakdown. Your mother says a lot of things. She nodded, but didn't open the door any wider. Call me when you get settled. I called her 3 times in the first month. She texted back twice, then nothing. So that's how I ended up in a 400-square-foot studio apartment with a Murphy bed that stuck halfway down and a kitchen that was really just a corner with a hot plate. 67 applications in 6 months, 12 interviews, 3 callbacks, 0 offers. You're overqualified, they'd say. Or, we've decided to promote from within. Or, we'll keep your resume on file. The unemployment benefits ran out. The savings account hit 0. The credit cards maxed out. And that's when I found out about the Red Cross plasma donation program. $45 twice a week if your iron levels are good. $90 a week, enough for rent and ramen noodles and the cheapest cell phone plan Verizon offers. First time? The intake nurse asked during my initial screening. Yeah. Any major health issues? Heart problems, diabetes, blood disorders? No, I've always been pretty healthy. Good. Your blood type? O negative. She looked up from her clipboard. Really? That's rare. Universal donor. Universal donor. I like that better than overqualified or decided to go with someone else. Jennifer said I didn't marry a failure. The call came at 11:23 p.m. on a Wednesday, March 8th. I remember because I was watching late-night TV, some documentary about deep-sea fishing, eating a 99-cent frozen dinner, and thinking about whether I had enough gas money to make it to the Red Cross Center tomorrow. Unknown number. Portland area code. Hello? Mr. Foster, this is Dr. Amanda Rhodes from Oregon Health and Science University. I'm sorry to call so late. My stomach dropped. Late-night calls from hospitals usually mean someone's dead. Is someone hurt? No, sir, nothing like that. I'm calling about your blood donation from this afternoon. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I muted the TV. Is something wrong with my blood? Actually, Mr. Foster, your blood may have saved someone's life today. The frozen dinner was getting cold on my lap. I don't understand. We had an emergency case this afternoon, a patient with an extremely rare blood compatibility issue. Your donation was the only viable match we had in the system. Without it, she paused. Let's just say you did something very important today. I set the dinner on the coffee table. Who was it? I can't share patient details, but I can tell you that your blood type is more than just O negative. You have a very unusual combination of antigens. Have you ever been tested for rare blood markers? I don't even know what that means. Mr. Foster, would you be willing to come in tomorrow morning? I'd like to run some additional tests. No needles, just a consultation. Is this going to cost me money? Because I don't have insurance right now. This would be at no cost to you. In fact, we may have something to discuss that could be beneficial. Beneficial. The way she said it made me think this wasn't just about helping sick people. What time? Would 9 a.m. work? OHSU Hospital, main campus. Ask for Dr. Rhodes at the hematology department. I wrote it down on the back of a pizza delivery flyer. Can you tell me anything else about this patient? Another pause. Mr. Foster, the patient you helped today is Lawrence Blackstone. The name didn't mean anything to me. Should I know who that is? CEO of Blackstone Industries. They manufacture medical devices. He's a very prominent member of the community. After she hung up, I Googled Lawrence Blackstone. 68 years old, net worth $2.1 billion. Founded Blackstone Industries in 1987. The company makes heart monitors, surgical instruments, diagnostic equipment. Their headquarters is in Beaverton, 20 minutes from where I used to work at Boeing. The news articles about him were all business stuff. Mergers and acquisitions, FDA approvals, stock prices. But there was one thing that caught my attention, a quote from an interview last year. I believe in paying debts, Blackstone had said. When someone does something significant for you, you remember it. I went to bed that night thinking about that word, significant. But I had no idea that by morning, my definition of significant was about to change completely. The next morning, I put on my one good shirt, the same one I'd been wearing to job interviews for 18 months, and drove to OHSU. The campus is built into the hills west of Portland, all glass and steel and people in white coats walking around like they're saving the world. Dr. Rhodes turned out to be younger than I expected, maybe 40, with the kind of confidence you get from having degrees people actually respect. Mr. Foster, thank you for coming in. How are you feeling today? Like someone who's about to get news he wasn't expecting. She smiled. That's probably accurate. Let me ask you something. Has anyone in your family ever been told they have unusual blood characteristics? My dad always said he had clean blood, whatever that means. He was in the Navy, donated blood regularly for 30 years. Interesting. Mr. Foster, yesterday's blood work showed something remarkable. You have a natural immunity to a specific type of cancer protein, specifically the PD-1 pathway that allows prostate cancer to evade the immune system. I stared at her. In English? Your blood contains antibodies that can essentially turn off prostate cancer's ability to hide from the body's natural defenses. It's incredibly rare. We're talking about 1 in 2.8 million people. And Lawrence Blackstone has prostate cancer. Had. The treatment protocol we developed using your antibodies has put him into complete remission. She pulled out a folder thick with papers and lab results. Mr. Foster, there are pharmaceutical companies that would pay significant money for the rights to study and develop treatments based on your blood chemistry. We're talking about potentially saving thousands of lives. Significant money. There was that word again. How significant? Dr. Rhodes looked at me for a long moment. Before we discuss numbers, I need to ask you something important. Have you told anyone about this? Family members? Friends? I almost laughed. Doctor, I don't have anyone to tell. Good. That's very good. And that's when she said a number that made me forget how to breathe. $3.2 million. I sat there in her office, looking out the window at the Willamette Valley, trying to process what she'd just said. 3.2 million. More money than I'd make in 30 years of aerospace engineering. More money than Jennifer's law practice would generate in a decade. That's what Biopharma Corporation is offering for exclusive rights to develop treatments based on your blood chemistry, Dr. Rhodes continued. It's a standard intellectual property licensing agreement. You would retain certain rights, of course, and there would be ongoing royalty payments if they successfully bring a treatment to market. Royalty payments? Conservative estimates suggest somewhere in the range of $500,000 annually, assuming FDA approval and market penetration within the typical 5-year window. $500,000 a year. I was selling my blood for $45 a pint and living on ramen noodles. Doctor, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Is this real, or is this some kind of mistake that's going to get figured out tomorrow? She opened the folder and showed me lab results with numbers and graphs I didn't understand, but looked official enough to convince me this wasn't a dream. Mr. Foster, your blood is the key to saving lives. But more than that, it's the key to a medical breakthrough that could change cancer treatment forever. Biopharma has been working on PD-1 pathway inhibitors for 8 years. Your natural antibodies do in minutes what their synthetic compounds can't do in months. So this Lawrence Blackstone guy is essentially cured, yes, and he's very interested in meeting you. She handed me a business card. James Mitchell, attorney at law, specializes in intellectual property and medical patents. Mr. Blackstone has arranged for him to represent you in these negotiations at no cost. I looked at the card. Heavy stock, embossed letters, the kind of business card that costs more to print than I spend on food in a week. Why would Blackstone pay for my lawyer? Because, Mr. Foster, he's a businessman who understands the value of ensuring that the person who saved his life is properly compensated. And because Biopharma Corporation has very expensive lawyers of their own. What do I need to do? Call Mitchell today. He'll explain the legal framework, help you set up a trust structure to protect your interests, and handle the contract negotiations. But Mr. Foster, she leaned forward, her voice dropping, I need you to understand something very important. Once word of this gets out, and it will get out eventually, your life is going to change dramatically. People you haven't heard from in months are going to suddenly remember how much they care about you. Family members who've been distant are going to want to reconnect, and not all of them are going to have your best interests at heart. I thought about Jennifer, about Emma and Tyler, about 18 months of silence and space. Are you saying I shouldn't tell my family? I'm saying you should be very careful about who you trust with this information. James Mitchell will explain the confidentiality requirements, but my advice is to keep this circle very small until the legal protections are in place. She stood up and walked me to the door. Mr. Foster, yesterday you were selling your blood for $45 because you needed grocery money. Today, you're potentially worth millions because that blood can save lives. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's the universe deciding you've been undervalued for long enough. I shook her hand and walked back to the Honda, my mind spinning with numbers and possibilities, and the strange feeling that my life had just taken a turn I never saw coming. But as I drove home, I kept thinking about what she'd said. People you haven't heard from in months are going to suddenly remember how much they care about you. 3 hours later, my phone rang, and I learned exactly what she meant. I called James Mitchell from the parking lot of a Starbucks, using their free Wi-Fi to Google his law firm while we talked. Mitchell and Associates. Downtown Portland, 43rd floor of the U.S. Bancorp Tower. Website full of photos of guys in expensive suits shaking hands with other guys in expensive suits. Mr. Foster, Dr. Rhodes briefed me on your situation. First thing we need to do is establish legal protections for your intellectual property rights. Can you come in this afternoon? How much is this going to cost me? Nothing up front. Mr. Blackstone is covering my fees until the contract is finalized, at which point my costs will be deducted from your proceeds. You'll net exactly what you would have netted if you'd hired me yourself, but you don't have to worry about cash flow. Cash flow. Like I had cash that flowed anywhere except out. What time? 3 o'clock. And Mr. Foster? Bring a photo ID, but don't bring anyone else. These negotiations need to stay confidential until we have everything locked down. The law office looked exactly like what you'd expect for a firm that charges $500 an hour. Marble floors, leather furniture, abstract art that probably cost more than my car. The receptionist offered me coffee in a cup that had actual ceramic weight to it. Mitchell turned out to be about my age, maybe a little older, with gray hair and the kind of handshake that suggests he's used to dealing with serious money. Daniel, may I call you Daniel? Good. Let's talk about what we're dealing with here. He spread out documents on a conference table that could have seated 12 people. Biopharma's initial offer is $3.2 million for exclusive licensing rights to your blood chemistry patents, plus royalty payments of 8% of net revenue from any treatments they develop and bring to market. In the pharmaceutical industry, it's unheard of for an individual contributor. What's the catch? Smart question. The catch is that once you sign this agreement, you can't work with any competing pharmaceutical companies on similar research. Your blood becomes Biopharma's exclusive resource for this specific application. Meaning? Meaning you can't sell your blood to anyone else for cancer research purposes. You can still donate to the Red Cross, still help accident victims, still save lives. But the cancer-fighting properties belong to Biopharma. He pulled out another document. However, we're going to structure this as an irrevocable trust. The money goes into a legal entity that you control, but can't be touched by creditors, divorce proceedings, or family claims. Think of it as a financial fortress. Divorce proceedings, family claims. He was thinking the same thing Dr. Rhodes had been thinking. How long does this process take? If you agree to the terms, we can have everything finalized within 48 hours. Biopharma wants to move quickly on this. They've got competitors sniffing around similar research, and they know what they have with your blood chemistry. I stared at the contract for a long moment. $3.2 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough money to never worry about rent or groceries or whether my car would start in the morning. Mitchell, can I ask you something? Absolutely. Why is Blackstone doing this? I mean, really? He could probably negotiate his own deal with Biopharma, cut me out entirely. Mitchell leaned back in his chair. Daniel, Lawrence Blackstone built a $2.1 billion company by understanding that when someone provides exceptional value, you pay them exceptional compensation. Your blood saved his life. In his mind, that creates an obligation. And in your mind? In my mind, you're about to become a very wealthy man who needs to be very, very careful about who he trusts. I signed the papers at 4:47 p.m. on March 15th. By 6:30 p.m., I had $3.2 million in an irrevocable trust. By 8:15 p.m., my phone was ringing, and I was about to find out that Mitchell's warning about trust was more prophetic than I'd realized. Dan. Oh my God, Dan, is that you? Jennifer's voice, breathless and excited in a way I hadn't heard in years, like she'd just won something. Hi, Jen. I just heard the most incredible thing. Emma ran into Lawrence Blackstone's assistant at a coffee shop downtown, and she said there was some kind of medical emergency and you were involved somehow. Dan, what happened? Are you okay? I sat down on my Murphy bed, looking around my 400 square foot apartment. 8 hours ago, I was a failed aerospace engineer living on blood money. Now, I was worth more than most people make in a lifetime, and my ex wife was calling me for the first time in 4 months. I'm fine, Jen. But what happened? Emma said something about the hospital and blood donation and Lawrence Blackstone personally wanting to thank you. Dan, that man is worth billions, Emma said, so the circle was already expanding. It's not really something I can talk about right now. What do you mean you can't talk about it? Dan, this is me. We were married for 25 years. We're married, past tense, but the way she said, this is me, like our relationship status was still pending. There are confidentiality agreements involved, Jen, legal stuff. Legal stuff? Dan, do you have a lawyer? Because if this is something significant, you need proper representation. I know people, good people, who specialize in medical litigation. Mitchell had been right. She was already thinking about the money. I have representation. From who? Dan, you can't afford the kind of lawyers who deal with billionaires. Let me make some calls. My firm has connections with... Jen, I said I have it handled. Silence for a moment. Then her voice changed, became softer, more familiar. The voice she used to use when she wanted something but didn't want to ask for it directly. Dan, I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. About how things ended. Here we go. Have you... The divorce. It was so hard for everybody. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe if we'd tried counseling or given it more time. You filed papers 4 months after I lost my job. I was scared, Dan. I was scared about the house, about the bills, about our future. I wasn't thinking clearly. Our future. Like we still had one. And now? Now I'm thinking maybe I made a mistake. Maybe we both made mistakes. Dan, what if we tried again? What if we, I don't know, started over? I looked around the apartment again. The hot plate that only had two settings, off and nuclear. The Murphy bed that stuck halfway up. The bathroom where you could sit on the toilet and wash your hands in the sink at the same time. Where is this coming from, Jen? It's coming from the fact that I miss you. I miss us. Dan, I saw you on the news last night. What news? Channel 8. There was a story about Lawrence Blackstone being released from OHSU, and they mentioned that a local blood donor had played a crucial role in his recovery. They didn't give names, but Dan, I know it was you. Of course. The news, because nothing stays quiet when billionaires are involved. The kids miss you too, she continued. Emma asks about you all the time. Emma hasn't returned my calls in 3 months. She's been busy with her career transition. But she talks about you, Dan. She feels terrible about how distant she's been. Career transition. Emma had been transitioning since college, trying to figure out whether she wanted to be a yoga instructor, a social media consultant, or a freelance photographer, all of which required living rent-free in her mother's house. And Tyler? Tyler's been asking when you're going to visit. He misses those talks you two used to have about engineering and problem solving. Dan, he looks up to you so much. Tyler, who hadn't called me once since I moved out. Tyler, who was finishing law school and probably already thinking about how to position himself in whatever was happening with Lawrence Blackstone. Jen, what exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we have dinner. Just dinner. No pressure, no expectations. Just, let's see if we can remember why we fell in love in the first place. I closed my eyes. For 18 months, I'd been waiting for this conversation, waiting for her to call and say she'd made a mistake, waiting for some sign that 25 years of marriage meant something more than a balance sheet. But the timing was suspicious, too convenient, too perfectly aligned with whatever Emma had heard at that coffee shop. When? Tomorrow night? I could cook. That beef stroganoff you always liked. We could open a bottle of wine, just talk. The beef stroganoff. She was pulling out the big guns. Let me think about it. Of course. Dan, take all the time you need. I want you to know that door is open. It's always been open. After she hung up, I sat in the silence for a long time, trying to figure out how I felt about the door being open. But mostly I was thinking about what Mitchell had said. You're about to become a very wealthy man who needs to be very careful about who he trusts, and wondering if the woman I'd loved for 25 years had just proved his point. I didn't call her back that night, or the next morning, but at 11:30 a.m., while I was sitting in Mitchell's office reviewing trust documents, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Dad, can we talk? I heard what happened with Mr. Blackstone. I'm proud of you. Call me? Proud. She was proud of me now. I showed the text to Mitchell. He read it and shook his head. Daniel, I've been doing this for 22 years. I've seen lottery winners, inheritance recipients, and people who suddenly come into money from lawsuits or business deals. And I can tell you this, the people who truly love you don't suddenly reappear the moment your bank balance changes. Maybe she means it. Maybe, but are you willing to risk $3.2 million on maybe? That afternoon, Emma called. Not texted. Called. First time in 4 months. Dad, I'm so sorry I've been distant. I've been going through some stuff, trying to figure out my life, and I kind of shut everyone out. What kind of stuff? Just career stuff, money stuff. The usual 26-year-old crisis. But Dad, when I heard about what you did for Mr. Blackstone, I realized how selfish I've been. You're out there literally saving lives, and I've been too wrapped up in my own problems to even call my father. She sounded genuine. Emma had always been the more emotional of my two kids, the one who cried at commercials and brought home injured birds to nurse back to health. Em, you don't have to apologize for living your own life. Yes, I do. Dad, you're my hero. You always have been. And I let you down when you needed family the most. Hero. When was the last time anyone had called me that? I was thinking, she continued, maybe we could have lunch tomorrow, just the two of us. I want to hear about everything that's been happening. Everything? Well, whatever you're allowed to talk about. Mom mentioned there might be legal confidentiality issues. Mom mentioned. Of course. Emma, did your mother ask you to call me? What? No, Dad. I mean, she mentioned that she'd talk to you and that maybe you guys might have dinner soon, which I think is great, by the way. But this call is from me. Okay. Dad, are you okay financially? I know the divorce was hard on you, and if you need anything, if I need anything. From Emma, who'd been living rent-free at her mother's house for 4 years. I'm getting by. Because if there's anything I can do to help, like what? I don't know. I've been thinking about maybe getting a place of my own, being more independent. But if you needed a roommate or something to help with expenses, a roommate. Emma, who'd never paid rent in her life, was offering to be my roommate, to help with expenses. That's thoughtful, Em, but I'm okay. Are you sure? Because I feel like I should be doing more for you. You're my dad. You shouldn't have to worry about money at your age. At my age, 52, which apparently qualified me for charity for my daughter. Em, let me ask you something. When did you start worrying about my financial situation? What do you mean? I mean, I've been struggling for 18 months. When did it occur to you that I might need help? Silence for a moment. Dad, that's not fair. I'm not trying to be unfair. I'm trying to understand the timing. The timing is that I've been growing up, okay? I've been realizing that I've been selfish and self-centered, and that I need to take care of the people who took care of me. Growing up, at 26. And this realization happened when? It happened when I realized that my father is the kind of person who saves billionaires' lives and doesn't even tell his family about it. It happened when I realized that while I was sitting around feeling sorry for myself, you were out there being amazing. Amazing. Hero, proud. All the words I'd been waiting to hear for 18 months. But the timing was still wrong. Em, I appreciate the call, I really do, but I need to think about lunch. Oh, okay. Dad, did I say something wrong? No, sweetheart. I just need to process some things. Because if I did, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be a better daughter, and I don't really know how. A better daughter. Like it was a skill you could learn from a self-help book. After she hung up, I sat in my car in the Starbucks parking lot, trying to figure out how I felt. For 18 months, I'd been waiting for this, waiting for my family to realize they missed me, waiting for some sign that our relationships were about more than what I could provide for them. But now that it was happening, it felt wrong, calculated, like someone had told them that the investment in reconciliation might pay dividends. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Tyler. Dad, heard about the Blackstone thing. We should talk. I might be able to help with the legal stuff. Call me. Legal stuff. Tyler, who was still in law school, was offering to help with legal stuff involving a $3.2 million contract. I turned off the phone and drove home, thinking about Mitchell's warning and wondering if my family had just proved that I really was alone in this. But I had no idea that being alone was about to become the least of my problems. The private investigator's name was Jake Morrison. I found his business card wedged under my windshield wiper Tuesday morning when I came out to drive to the grocery store. Call me, was handwritten on the back. It's about your family. I called him from the parking lot of Safeway. Mr. Foster? Jake Morrison, Morrison Investigations. Thanks for calling. We need to talk. About what? About the fact that your ex-wife hired me 3 weeks ago to follow you, and about what I found out that she doesn't know yet. 3 weeks ago, before Dr. Rhodes called, before Lawrence Blackstone, before Biopharma and the $3.2 million trust. Mr. Foster, you still there? Yeah? Can we meet? Somewhere private. This isn't a phone conversation. No. Morrison turned out to be a guy in his 50s with a gray mustache and the kind of wrinkled suit that suggested he spent a lot of time sitting in cars watching people. We met at a diner in southeast Portland, the kind of place where the coffee comes in thick white mugs and the booths have duct tape holding the vinyl together. Your ex-wife hired me on February 20th, he said, sliding a manila folder across the table. She wanted me to document your living situation, employment status, and financial condition. Standard divorce follow-up stuff. She was thinking about filing for increased alimony. I opened the folder. Photos of me going into the Red Cross Center. Photos of me at the grocery store, comparing prices on cereal boxes. Photos of me at job interviews, walking out of buildings with the posture of someone who didn't get hired. She wanted evidence that you were deliberately staying unemployed to avoid paying support. I've been looking for work for 18 months. I know, that's what I told her. But she insisted I keep documenting your activities. He pointed to a photo dated March 6th. This is you at the Red Cross Center, 2 days before the Blackstone incident. She was having me followed before any of this happened. That's right. But here's the thing, Mr. Foster. I do a lot of divorce surveillance, and I've learned to spot when someone's financial situation changes suddenly. New clothes, different spending habits, upgraded lifestyle. So when your ex-wife called me last Friday asking for an update, and when I saw her driving by your apartment building twice in one day, I started paying closer attention. He pulled out another photo, Jennifer's BMW parked across from my building. She's been watching you personally since last weekend, and Mr. Foster, she's not alone. Another photo, Tyler's car parked down the block from my apartment. Your son's been doing drive-bys too, real subtle about it. Law school must teach you something about surveillance. I stared at the photos, my family, watching me like I was a criminal. Morrison, why are you telling me this? Because I quit working for your ex-wife yesterday, and I think you should know what you're dealing with. Why did you quit? Because she asked me to do something I don't do. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. She wanted me to get copies of your bank records. Specifically, she wanted to know if there had been any large deposits in the past week. When I told her that would require breaking federal banking laws, she offered to double my fee. Double his fee. Jennifer, who'd complained about every expense during our marriage, was willing to pay double to illegally access my bank records. Did you do it? Hell no. I run a legitimate business. But Mr. Foster, if she's willing to break laws to get information about your finances, she's probably not planning to just ask nicely for whatever money you've got. I thought about the phone call, the sudden warmth, the offer of beef stroganoff and reconciliation. What do you think she knows? I think she knows you were involved in some kind of medical situation with Lawrence Blackstone, and I think she knows that people don't usually get personally involved with billionaires unless there's money on the table. What she doesn't know is how much money. And Tyler? Your son's been asking around at law school about intellectual property law and medical patent licensing. Real specific questions about how much pharmaceutical companies pay for exclusive research rights. Tyler. My son, who was supposed to be studying for the bar exam, was instead researching exactly the kind of contract I'd just signed. Morrison reached into his jacket and pulled out a digital recorder. This is from yesterday. Your ex-wife didn't know I was recording. He pressed play. Jennifer's voice, crisp and clear. Jake, I don't care what it costs. I need to know how much money Dan has access to. The Blackstone connection is worth millions, I'm sure of it. Dan's too naive to protect himself properly. When we reconcile, I need to make sure that money is protected as a marital asset. Marital asset. We'd been divorced for 4 months. There's more, Jennifer's voice continued. Emma's already working on reestablishing relationship with her father. Tyler's researching the legal angles. If Dan's gotten himself involved in something lucrative, his family deserves to benefit from it. Deserves to benefit. Like my blood was a family inheritance. Morrison turned off the recorder. Mr. Foster, I've been doing this work for 12 years. I've seen a lot of ugly family situations, but I've never seen a case where someone hired a private investigator to stalk their ex-husband because they thought he might have come into money. I sat there, looking at the photos of my family surveilling me like I was a mark in a con game. What do you want from me, Morrison? Nothing. I just thought you should know what you're dealing with. And Mr. Foster, if I were you, I'd be real careful about any family dinners in the immediate future. He stood up, threw a $10 bill on the table, and headed for the door. One more thing, he called back. You might want to check your credit reports. Someone's been making inquiries. After he left, I sat in that diner for 2 hours, staring at photographs of my family plotting against me, and realizing that the loneliness I'd felt for 18 months was nothing compared to the betrayal I was feeling now. Mitchell's office, 9 a.m. the next morning. I brought Morrison's folder and the digital recording. How long did you say she's been having you followed? 3 weeks. Started before anyone knew about the Blackstone situation. Mitchell listened to the recording twice, making notes on a legal pad. Daniel, we have a problem. If Jennifer believes she has a claim to marital assets, she could file for post-divorce asset discovery. It's unusual, but not unheard of, if she can prove you concealed income during the divorce proceedings. I didn't have any income during the divorce, but a good lawyer could argue that you had potential income, that your blood chemistry was a marital asset that should have been disclosed. That's insane. That's family law. Daniel, we need to establish a clear timeline showing that your value as a blood donor wasn't known or anticipated during your marriage. We need evidence that Jennifer's current interest in reconciliation is purely financial. He pulled out a device that looked like a small radio. Oregon is a single-party consent state for audio recordings. That means you can legally record conversations without the other person's knowledge, as long as you're a participant in the conversation. You want me to record my ex-wife. I want you to protect yourself. If Jennifer calls you again suggesting reconciliation, or if any family members approach you about sharing in your windfall, we need their statements on record. The device was smaller than a pack of cigarettes, with a clip that attached to the inside of a shirt pocket. How does it work? Voice activated, 36 hours of battery life. Everything gets stored digitally, and we can download it to create legally admissible evidence. Just don't tell anyone you're wearing it. I clipped it inside my jacket pocket. What am I supposed to say to get them talking? You don't say anything specific. Just respond naturally to whatever they bring up. If they're really after your money, they'll reveal their intentions without any prompting from you. And if they don't, then we'll know their motives are genuine, and you can make decisions about your family based on actual evidence instead of suspicion. That afternoon, I called Jennifer. Dan, I was hoping you'd call. Have you thought about dinner? I have. How about tonight? Tonight? Oh, that's perfect. The kids are both going to be here. Emma's staying for dinner, and Tyler's driving down from Portland. It'll be just like old times. Just like old times. Except for the private investigator and the divorce decree and the fact that I was wearing a wire. What time? 6 o'clock? I'll make that stroganoff. And Dan, I'm so glad you called. This feels right, like we're finally finding our way back to each other. Finding our way back to each other. Or finding their way back to my money. The house in Lake Oswego looked about the same. Same landscaping, same Mercedes in the driveway, same sense that this was the kind of place where successful people lived. Jennifer met me at the door wearing the blue dress I'd always told her looked good on her. Dan, you look... She paused, looking me up and down. You look better, healthier. There's something different about you. Something different, like financial security. Hi, Jen. She hugged me, holding on a little longer than necessary. Come in. Come in? Emma's setting the table, and Tyler should be here any minute. The dining room table was set with our wedding china, the good wine glasses, cloth napkins instead of paper. Jennifer was pulling out all the stops. Emma appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Dad! She hugged me tight, and for a moment it felt genuine. Like maybe Morrison and Mitchell were wrong. Like maybe my family really had just missed me. Em, good to see you. I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about lunch. I was wondering if maybe instead of going out, you could come over to my new place. I found an apartment in Northwest Portland. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. New apartment. Emma, who'd been living rent-free for 4 years, had suddenly found her own place. When did you move out? Just yesterday, actually. I realized it was time to be an adult. Yesterday, the day after Jennifer had been recorded talking about reconciliation and marital assets. Tyler arrived 20 minutes later, looking like the successful lawyer he was about to become. Expensive suit, confident handshake, the kind of smile that suggested he was already thinking 3 moves ahead. Dad, good to see you. Mom said you've had some interesting developments lately. Did she? The whole Lawrence Blackstone thing, that's incredible, Dad. You literally saved a man's life. I donated blood. Doctors did the saving. Don't be modest, Jennifer said, bringing out the stroganoff. Dan, what you did was heroic, and I'll bet Mr. Blackstone was properly grateful. Properly grateful. There it was. He sent a thank you note. Just a note? Emma asked. Dad, you saved the life of one of the richest men in Oregon. Surely he did more than send a note. I looked around the table. My family, all of them watching me expectantly, waiting for me to reveal how much I was worth. There might be some other expressions of gratitude, I said carefully. What kind of expressions? Tyler asked. I'm not really supposed to talk about it. There are confidentiality agreements. Jennifer leaned forward. Dan, this is family. Surely you can share with us. We're not going to tell anyone. Family. The same family that had cut off contact when I lost my job. It's complicated legal stuff, Jen. You wouldn't find it interesting. Try me, Tyler said. I'm about to be a lawyer after all. Maybe I could help. Help. Everyone wanted to help now. The recording device was capturing every word, and my family was about to reveal exactly what Mitchell suspected. Well, I said, there might be some compensation involved. And that's when Jennifer leaned forward with a smile I hadn't seen in years and said exactly what I was afraid she'd say. Compensation? Dan, that's wonderful. How much are we talking about? We. Jennifer said we. It's hard to say exactly. The legal arrangements are complicated. Tyler set down his fork. Dad, what kind of legal arrangements? Are we talking about a settlement? A licensing agreement? Stock options? You seem to know a lot about this stuff for someone who's still in law school. I've been doing some research, intellectual property law, specifically related to medical patents. Dad, if your blood chemistry led to a medical breakthrough, you could be looking at serious money. Serious money? My son had been researching exactly what I'd signed. Tyler's right, Emma said. Dad, you need to make sure you're being properly compensated. These pharmaceutical companies make billions off people's medical contributions. I have legal representation. From who? Jennifer asked. Dan, you need someone who specializes in this kind of thing. Someone who can make sure you get everything you're entitled to. Entitled to. The same word Morrison had recorded her using. My lawyer seems competent. But is he looking out for your family's interests too? Jennifer asked. Dan, whatever money comes from this, it affects all of us. Emma's student loans, Tyler's bar exam fees, our future, like we still had one. Jen, we're divorced. Legally, yes, but emotionally, Dan, we're still connected. We're still family, and families take care of each other. Take care of each other? Where was that philosophy when I was selling blood for grocery money? Dad, Emma said, I've been thinking about what we talked about me getting my own place. If there's money coming in, maybe I could borrow some for a down payment? I'd pay it back, of course. And I could use help with law school debt, Tyler added, just until I get established. It would be an investment in the family's future earning potential. Investment. My children were talking about borrowing against money I hadn't told them I had. Jennifer reached across the table and took my hand. Dan, I know the divorce was hard on all of us, but we're older now, wiser. We know what we lost when we let pride and fear tear us apart. If you're about to come into significant money, maybe this is the universe's way of giving us a second chance. The universe. Jennifer, who hadn't believed in anything except billable hours and retirement accounts. What kind of second chance, Jen? The kind where we don't make the same mistakes. The kind where we build something better than what we had before. Dan, I was scared when you lost your job. I was afraid we'd lose everything we'd worked for. But now, she squeezed my hand, now I realize that everything we really need is sitting around this table. Family, love, and if there's money too, well, that just makes it easier to focus on what really matters. What really matters, like the third eye. 2 million trust fund. Jen, can I ask you something? Of course. When did you realize that family and love were what really mattered? She looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, for 18 months you didn't call. Emma didn't call. Tyler didn't call. For 18 months I was selling my blood for $45 a pint just to pay rent. When during those 18 months did it occur to any of you that family was what really mattered? The table went quiet. Emma looked down at her plate. Tyler shifted in his chair. Dan, that's not fair, Jennifer said. We were all dealing with our own struggles. What struggles? You got the house. You got the investment accounts. You got to keep living the life we'd built together. What exactly were you struggling with? I was struggling with watching my husband give up on himself. There it was, the anger underneath the reconciliation. Give up on myself? Yes, Dan, you stopped trying. You took the first offer in the divorce settlement. You moved into that awful apartment instead of fighting for what you deserved. You accepted unemployment like it was permanent. I was watching you become someone I didn't recognize. Someone you didn't want to be married to. Someone who wasn't taking care of his family. Taking care of his family. Like it was my job to subsidize everyone else's lifestyle. I leaned back in my chair, looking at these three people who had been the center of my world for 25 years. And now? Now you're taking care of yourself. You're making smart decisions, getting proper legal advice, creating opportunities. You're being the man I married. The man she married. The man with money. So if I didn't have this opportunity, if I was still living in that apartment, selling blood, looking for work, would we be having this dinner? Jennifer looked at Tyler, then at Emma, then back at me. Of course we would. Dan, this isn't about money. Oh. And that's when I reached into my jacket pocket and turned off the recording device. Yes, it is. I set the recording device on the dining room table next to the wedding china. What is that? Jennifer asked. That's you, Jen. That's you talking to your private investigator about marital assets and how naive I am. That's Emma and Tyler researching pharmaceutical patent law. That's all three of you planning how to get your hands on money you haven't earned. Tyler's face went white. Dad, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been having me followed for 3 weeks. I'm talking about the fact that none of you contacted me for 18 months, but 48 hours after word gets out that I helped Lawrence Blackstone, suddenly I'm everyone's hero again. Emma started to cry. Dad, that's not how it is. Then how is it, Em? Explain to me how you decide to get your own apartment the day after your mother gets recorded talking about reconciliation strategies. Explain to me how Tyler suddenly needs help with law school debt when he's been working summer internships that pay more than I made selling blood. Dan, you're being paranoid, Jennifer said. That device is probably illegal. You can't record people without their consent. Actually, in Oregon, I can. Single party consent law. My lawyer explained it to me. Your lawyer? Dan, who is representing you in this? James Mitchell, Mitchell and Associates, 43rd floor of the U.S. Bancorp Tower, paid for by Lawrence Blackstone himself. Jennifer's expression changed. She recognized the name. Morrison, Patterson and Associates had probably gone up against Mitchell in court. Dan, how much money are we talking about? We? There is no we, Jen. You made that clear when you filed divorce papers. I made a mistake. Uh, I was scared and I acted out of fear, but we can fix this. Dan, we can get remarried. We can rebuild what we had. Rebuild what we had. Like 25 years of marriage was a business contract that could be renegotiated. What we had was a relationship where I worked 60-hour weeks to maintain a lifestyle you wanted, and the minute I couldn't maintain it anymore, you walked away. That's not true. Then explain Emma's student loans, Tyler's law school debt, your house, your car, your investment accounts. Explain how I ended up with nothing but a Honda with 127,000 miles and a studio apartment, while you kept everything we'd built together. Tyler stood up. Dad, the divorce settlement was fair. Mom's lawyer, your mother's lawyer, convinced the judge that I was deliberately staying unemployed to avoid support payments. Your mother hired a private investigator to document my poverty so she could argue for increased alimony. Fair would have been your mother getting a job. Jennifer slammed her hand on the table. I have a job. I'm a lawyer. You were a lawyer. You've been consulting since the divorce, which apparently pays well enough to afford private investigators and surveillance equipment. The tears Emma had been crying stopped. Dad, how do you know about the private investigator? Because he quit working for your mother when she asked him to break federal banking laws to get copies of my financial records. Silence around the table. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm going to leave. You're going to stop having me followed. You're going to stop driving by my apartment. And you're going to stop pretending that this sudden interest in family reconciliation has anything to do with missing me. Dan, wait, Jennifer said. You're right, okay? You're right. Maybe I did have ulterior motives. Maybe I was thinking about the money. But that doesn't mean my feelings aren't real. What feelings, Jen? The feeling that you're entitled to a share of money I earned after our marriage ended? The feeling that I owe you something because we used to be married? The feeling that I love you. Love. The word hung in the air like smoke. You love what I might be worth. There's a difference. I stood up and headed for the door. Dad, wait, Tyler called after me. There's something you need to know. I stopped. What? Tyler looked at Emma, then at Jennifer. Tell him, Mom. Tyler, don't. Tell me what? Emma was crying again, but this time it looked real. Dad, the paternity test. What paternity test? Tyler pulled out his phone and showed me a document. LabCorp letterhead. DNA analysis results. I requested this last week. When I was researching the legal angles of your situation, I wanted to make sure that if you had biological intellectual property rights, we understood who might have hereditary claims. I took the phone and read the report. Daniel Foster. Probability of paternity. 0.0%. Dad, Emma whispered, I'm not your biological daughter. I looked at Jennifer. She was staring at her plate, not meeting my eyes. Jen? It was a mistake, Dan. A stupid mistake. A conference in Seattle, too much wine, a colleague who was going through his own divorce. Emma wasn't my daughter. 26 years of father-daughter relationship based on a lie. How long have you known? Since she was born. Dan, I swear I thought about telling you, but you were so happy, and you loved her so much, and it didn't seem to matter. It didn't seem to matter. A marriage built on a lie didn't seem to matter. Emma looked at me with red eyes. Dad, does this change anything? I mean, you're still my dad. You're still the person who taught me to ride a bike and helped with my homework and whose trust fund you're trying to access." She stopped talking. I looked around the table one more time. At the woman who'd lied to me for 26 years. At the son who'd researched how to claim my intellectual property. At the daughter who wasn't my daughter and was crying because her inheritance plan had just collapsed. Goodbye, Jennifer. Goodbye, Tyler. Goodbye, Emma. And for the first time in 18 months, I walked out of that house feeling free. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new office overlooking the Willamette River, Foster Foundation for Rare Blood Research, nonprofit status approved, $200,000 annual operating budget, and a mission to connect rare blood donors with patients who need them. Carol brings me coffee in a mug that says, "World's Most Adequate Boss." She's my office manager, and also the woman I've been dating since April. We met when she knocked on my apartment door to ask if I'd seen her escaped cat. Turned out the cat was hiding under my fire escape, and Carol was the first person in months to talk to me like I was human instead of a source of income. "Channel 8 wants to interview you again," she says. "Something about National Blood Donor Awareness Month." Tell them I'm not available. You say that every time. I mean it every time. She sits down in the chair across from my desk. "Dan, you know you're allowed to take credit for the good things you've done, right?" "Good things." 23 rare blood donors connected with patients in the past 6 months. 4 lives saved that we know of. Dozens more who now have hope because someone with compatible blood is in the system. The foundation takes credit. I just write the checks. The biopharma royalty payments started in May, $127,000 in the first quarter, deposited automatically into the foundation account. Lawrence Blackstone sits on our advisory board and has contributed another $500,000 of his own money. Turns out saving someone's life creates relationships you don't expect. My phone buzzes with a text message. I almost ignore it, but the name stops me. Emma. "Dad, I saw the news story about your foundation. I'm proud of you. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know that you inspired me to volunteer at the Children's Hospital. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you should know." I show the text to Carol. "Are you going to respond?" "I don't know." "She's been texting you for 3 months." "I know. And you've never responded." "Also true." Carol takes the phone and reads the message again. "Dan, she says she's not asking for anything. People say a lot of things, but what if she means it? What if?" The question that's been keeping me awake some nights. What if Emma really has changed? What if Tyler's attempt to contact me through Mitchell's office is genuine? What if 18 months of silence and 4 months of manipulation don't define who they really are? "Carol, let me ask you something." "Sure." If someone lies to you for 26 years, then tries to manipulate you out of money, then discovers they don't actually have a legal claim to that money, and then starts apologizing and asking for forgiveness, what do you call that? "I call it complicated. I call it consequences." She hands the phone back. "Your choice. But Dan, forgiveness isn't about whether they deserve it. It's about whether you deserve to carry that anger forever." Forgiveness. The word feels foreign, like a concept from a language I used to speak. Outside my window, I can see people walking across the Hawthorne Bridge. Some of them are probably heading to jobs they hate, or home to families who don't appreciate them, or to apartments where they eat dinner alone. Some of them might be carrying secrets that would destroy their relationships if anyone found out. Some of them might be wondering if they matter to anyone. I type a response to Emma. "Thank you for the message. I'm glad you're volunteering. Keep me updated on how it goes." Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but not silence either. Carol smiles. "That's a start?" It's something. My computer chimes with an email, another potential donor match. A 12-year-old girl in Eugene who needs someone with my specific blood markers for a bone marrow transplant. Her name is Sarah, and according to the medical report, I might be her only hope. I forward the email to Dr. Rhodes and pick up my car keys. "I'll be back tomorrow," I tell Carol. "I've got blood to donate." $45 a pint. That's what my family thought I was worth. Turns out they were wrong about a lot of things.